Hello and welcome to another one of my investor videos. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Money Sponge on Twitter and I'm a junior resources investor predominantly in the oil and gas and mining sectors. Many of the stocks I talk about would be deemed high risk due to low liquidity, low market capitalisation and generally being early stage companies. The videos that I produce are intended to assist others with their research. They're not investment advice, so please always do your own research. So today I'm going to be talking about a company, Arc Minerals, which I've recently invested in. And Arc Minerals is a multi-asset junior resources company focused on mining and projects in Africa. Primarily they're focused on copper cobalt in Zambia, and they have a large gold project in the DRC. The company at the moment is 26 million market cap, and as I speak today, the company did a recent 2.5 million sterling raise in May, and they've also sold one of their non-core assets for 530,000 recently. So the company should be in a relatively good cash position. In terms of the management team, well, it consists of Chairman Nick von Schoendig, who joined the company just over a year ago. He's previously been the CEO of a FTSE listed company and also been a senior executive at Anglo American. A recent appointment to the board, Don Bailey, he was former head of mining operations at Rio Tinto, and therein lies an interesting connection. And obviously a very experienced person to have joined the team as well. Now, many people will know that companies like Rio, Glencore, BHP, Anglo, all the big mining companies have been quite vocal lately about having acquisition war chests for picking up quality projects. And this obviously is due to a lack of exploration over the last few years when times have been difficult and the commodities downturn. But now they're obviously focusing on looking for projects, and this is one of the main things that excites me about Arc Minerals is their Zamsort project, which is potentially a tier 1 copper cobalt project, and it's non-DRC to boot. So that's an interesting connection. Brian McMaster is a non-exec, and he most people will know him from his successes at Harvest Minerals and more recently positive news out of Jangada Mines as well. So Brian is pretty much a veteran on the AIM and in the junior mining space. So projects, well, when Nick came to the company, he had 4 projects on the table, all at various different stages, but the company then was Autat Resources, and the company was struggling for a bit of direction, didn't have much of a strategy and much focus. And since Nick's come on board, he's completely turned that around. And what he's done now is divided the company and its projects into core and non-core assets. Now, the core assets are the Misisi Akianga Gold Project, which recently had a JORC resource increase to 3 million ounces, which was a big piece of news for the company. And Zamsort, which is the much discussed copper cobalt project in Zambia. So these are the 2 core assets, and these are very exciting from an early stage investor's point of view. The other 2 projects, Andiamo and Sturek, they're not bad projects in their own right. In fact, Sturek has 145 million NPV when they did the scoping study on this, and so it's a decent project in its own right, but I think it comes with a fair bit of capital intensity and something that Nick's decided, and I think rightly so, that should potentially be spun off, maybe even a JV, but I think more likely going to be sold. And Andiamo itself, which was a smaller project, we just had recent notification that they are going to be selling that project, so I'm just waiting for final confirmation of that. So the company have got a clear strategy now, Nick's on board, and it's to focus on the Zamsort Copper Cobalt project and also to develop the Misisi Gold project. So let's just talk a little bit about those projects. So the Misisi Akianga Gold project, well, it's DRC based. ARC Minerals hold 73% effective interest in that project. It's a 3 million ounce gold resource, grading at 2.16 grams a tonne. And the project itself has further exploration upside as well. And in fact, if you look at the pictures, you can see that the gold belt is 55 kilometres in size, and there are a lot of additional prospective targets on that gold belt that haven't been drilled yet. So this project comes with potential significant upside to come. And I think that what they're going to do now is they've done the JORC. They've now got a scoping study underway, and the scoping study is targeting a 150 to 200,000 ounce per annum target production. Now that's a big production for a company of ARC Minerals market cap, and some would say potentially could underpin the market cap in its own right today at 26 million. I think their recent scoping study they did on the project when it was around about 1.5 million ounces yielded an NPV of something like 171 million. And if you look now at the resource being increased up to 3 million ounces, well, you can expect a potentially significant improvement in that NPV figure. So this is an exciting project for the company in its own right. Then we move on to probably the most talked about project, which is the Zamsort copper cobalt project. And ARC hold an effective interest in that at the moment of 66%. The Calabar license, which is the focal license, spans 1,000 kilometres squared. And as I said, it's a copper cobalt project, and they've got an in-house resource estimate currently of 16.5 million tonnes, grading at a CU equivalent grade of 0.94%. That's a pretty significant and high copper grade. And recent drilling results, only announced this week, have yielded good mineralisation. They've got copper targets at good depth. The targets start relatively shallow, so we could potentially have low strip ratios here. For anyone who doesn't know what a strip ratio, it means how much ton of earth you have to move to retrieve, say, like a ton of the metal. So this is looking very exciting from the early drilling results, and I'm very excited about this project and the potential scope and size of this project. And the project itself actually sits in close proximity to 3 producing mines today. It's right next door to the First Quantum Sentinel mine, which is a large producing copper mine. But interestingly also, the Calabar license holds 9 of the Anglo Equinox's top 30 targets when they were back doing original, if you like, exploration a number of years ago. And in fact, one of the projects that sold, the Kalumbila project, was actually 22 on the target list. So it was actually effectively a lower priority than 9 of the prospects within the Calabar license, which is what Zamsort and ARC Minerals hold. So that's very interesting in its own right. And if you start looking at the results coming out already, and then you start looking at where this project sits, one of the last prospected areas in the prolific Lufilian Arc Dome region there, you can start getting a feel for this could potentially be a big win for the company. So what are they doing? Well, they're doing an 11,000 metre drilling campaign there at the moment, and they're about 15% the way through. And as I said, early indications are it's looking pretty good in terms of what they're finding. So we're going to be expecting assays to be coming back in the coming weeks, and perhaps maybe even happen by the time I release this video. So what else on that project there, as well as the drilling campaign? They're looking to JORC up the resource by the end of the year, and that will give them something substantial in their hand for any majors who may come along sniffing around, to basically have a bit of a bargaining tool there and say, right, okay, if you want to come in and get involved with this, it's going to have to be at a decent level. And what I mean by that is not at the current share price or current market cap if they want to stake in the project. So there's potential significant upside in the share price just from jorking up this resource. They've also got potential near-term cash flow actually, because they've got a CSD plant that they're almost complete on. There've been a few things they've needed to do to it, but they can actually get some early production and planning to get some early copper cobalt production up and running by the end of the year. And in addition to that, they've got 10,000 tons of stockpiled ore grading at 2% copper and above. So they've got options here to start generating some early near-term cash flow to take perhaps less emphasis on doing further fundraisers or having to go back to the market at lower share prices. So this is really interesting as well. And if you combine all this together, this is looking absolutely fantastic for ARC. Okay, so what do we talk about? Let's have a talk about the look ahead then. So what's coming? What the company got coming that investors can get excited about? Well, let's focus on the two projects, the core projects. The non-core project, Sturek, which is the only one left really, I think that's going to be spun off and sold. So we're not going to spend any time talking about that. And whatever Nick can achieve for that, I'm sure will add value for shareholders. But the focus is on these core projects. So Mississippi Anchianga Gold Project, well, a lot of progress has been made as I've talked about. What we can expect in H2 is completion of the scoping study. And then I think, and potentially even before the scoping study completes, there could be the potential of a JV partner of the asset. Or if the offer was right, perhaps even a potential outright purchase of the asset from ARC. But that's conjecture on my part. Let's focus on what the company are planning to do, and that is complete the scoping study, get some economics wrapped around this. They've got the JORC. Those are two fantastic things to go to the market with and start talking to partners with. Zamsor, well, there's a heck of a lot going to come here. We've got completion of the 11,000 metre drilling program. As I said, 15% of the way through. We've got further assays and drill results to come from that. Very exciting, regular updates through the rest of this year. That's going to be culminating in a JORC resource, which should be by the end of this year as well. We've got the CDS production plant coming online potentially with production near-term cash flow from the production of the copper cobalt cake. And we've potentially got a sale of the stockpiled ore, or for them actually to be doing some work on the stockpiled ore, like processing it. Then, of course, we've got the potential for any of the majors that look at this data and like what they see to come in on a JV level or coming out and make an outright purchase for the asset. And the Kalumbila project, as we said before, that was actually purchased for $260,000 a number of years back, and it's a project that's sitting practically next door to Zamsor, the Kalaba license as well. So if we JORC up this project and we get some good economics, then we could be looking at the potential for a takeout. So what would I say was the investment case then to wrap up? Well, I've probably covered a lot of it as I've spoken through, and probably you'll see the potential opportunities here. But let's just summarise it. Proven management team. Okay, so we've got 3 guys on the board, as I spoke about earlier. They've all got significant mining experience. They've delivered to date. Nick's come in, he's created a strategy, he's turned the company around, he's divided the company up into core, non-core assets, progressed the core assets, driving out value for shareholders. I like what he's done, and I like the process he's going by, and he's kept shareholders up to date. He's had investor meetings, he's done conference calls, there's always regular news flow coming out, regular tweets from the company's account. Nick is very focused on this project, and he's got good people working with him on the board now. Don Bailey, the Rio connection, do not underestimate that. Don will have connections to Rio directly, and if they get a sniff of what's here and it is what we think it could be, or what we hope for it to be, they could come knocking on the door sooner rather than later. What else? Share price appreciation. Well, under the new management, under Nick, he came along to the party at about 2p, and he, took a little while to get things going and to get the strategy there, but he's delivered, and the share price has delivered too, and it's up to nearly 5 pence as I speak today. So if he continues with the momentum and the drive that he's got, we can expect potentially more multiples on the share price, and that's what I would expect. We have two tier one potential assets. We have the large copper cobalt asset and we have the large gold asset, and they are enviable assets for a junior miner at this current market cap. And I think that's one of the most compelling investment cases here. I remember when I invested at Asian Met Resources, just under 2 pence per share, that hit 1340p earlier this year. And it was the same kind of approach for me. Get in early stage to potentially world-class projects with a decent management team and watch the story unfold. And if you've done your research, as I have, then you will potentially be rewarded significantly. What about the macro backdrop? Well, the macro backdrop for this company, it's in the right space. It's in copper cobalt. Gold's been on the back foot a little bit, but you know, it's still hovering around the $12,000 an ounce level. And as we've just said, you know, there's upwards of 3 million ounces of gold projects, so that's significant in its own right. And the numbers they're talking about, annual production, 150 to 2,000 ounces, that's significant for this company. I think it's a compelling market cap versus the asset potential. You know, we've talked a lot about the assets here. I think they have a lot of potential, and I think at 26 million, this is a compelling level to come in at. And there's still risks, obviously. You know, it's an AIM listed company, it's early stage, but if you dig deep and you look at what the company have got and what they've achieved and where they could go, there could be significant upside from the current share price. I think lastly, I'd just like to say that I think it could be a takeover target. I mean, you know, if these assets come to fruition and Zamsor comes to fruition, then I think, you know, it wouldn't be too long before a major would come along and potentially take the company out. And that could be up at a level, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 million. The whole M&A market space is waking up now, and I don't think it's long before we'll see a junior taken out, which could start a bit of a market frenzy in the junior resources space. So I hope you liked my summary. You know, I think it's a compelling investment, and these are obviously my own views, and you know, I do encourage you to do your own research, but I hope you liked the overview and found the information useful.